I stared at the screen of my laptop, my breath hitching in my throat like a jagged shard of glass. The video file was grainy, shot in the low light of my home office, but the audio was crystal clear, devastatingly so. "She's losing her mind, Dominic. It's perfect," the voice on the recording sneered. It was a voice I had listened to for 26 years, a voice I had sung lullabies to, a voice I had prioritized above all others. "Are you sure she hasn't signed the bakery over to the quiet one yet?" a male voice asked. "Sebastian?" The laughter that followed was sharp, cruel. "Please. Mother thinks he's a disappointment. She's so blinded by her love for her precious Julianna that I could set the house on fire and she'd blame him for leaving the matches out. Once I get that power of attorney signed on Saturday, the gilded crumb is ours. We sell it, dump her in that facility in the suburbs, the cheap one, and we are on a plane to Bali." I felt the blood drain from my face, leaving my skin cold and clammy. My hands, resting on the mahogany desk, trembled so violently that my wedding ring clicked rhythmically against the wood. The smell of my own fear was acrid, mixing with the scent of the lavender candle I had lit to calm my nerves. It was all a lie. My life, my pride, my golden child. She wasn't just ungrateful, she was a predator, and I was the prey she had been fattening up for the slaughter. But Julianna didn't know one thing. She didn't know that the senile old woman she mocked had just stopped crying. And when a mother stops crying, she starts planning. To understand how I found myself sitting in the dark, watching my own daughter plot my demise, you have to understand the history of the gilded crumb. My name is Genevieve. For 30 years, I have been the owner and head pastry chef of the most renowned bakery in the city. I built it from nothing. When my husband, Theodore, passed away 2 decades ago, the bakery became my lifeline. It was the flour on my apron and the scent of vanilla bean paste that kept me sane while raising 2 children alone. I have 2 children, or rather, I have 2 very different worlds living under my roof. There is Sebastian, my eldest. He is 28 now, quiet, brooding, with Theodore's dark eyes and a work ethic that borders on masochism. He works in the back of the bakery, kneading dough at 3 a.m., fixing the ovens when they break, carrying 50-pound sacks of flour without a complaint. And then there is Julianna. Julianna came 2 years after Sebastian. She was born screaming and never really stopped demanding the world's attention. She was a stunning child, golden curls, bright blue eyes, a smile that could melt the coldest winter frost. She was my miracle, my princess. I admit it, I am guilty. I created the monster. Because Theodore died when Julianna was so young, I overcompensated. I poured all my grief and love into spoiling her. When Sebastian broke a toy, he was scolded for being careless. When Julianna broke a vase, I swept up the shards and asked if she was hurt. Sebastian grew up in the shadows, covered in flour and sweat. Julianna grew up in the spotlight, covered in silk and designer perfume. The trouble truly began 6 months ago, when I decided it was time to retire. My hands were starting to ache with arthritis, a dull, throbbing pain that flared up whenever it rained. The doctor warned me about my blood pressure. "Stress is a silent killer, Genevieve," he had said, peering over his spectacles. "You need to rest." I gathered the family for Sunday dinner to make the announcement. The dining room was warm, smelling of roast chicken and rosemary. Julianna arrived 40 minutes late, as usual, breezing in with her phone glued to her ear, talking about a photo shoot. She was trying to become a lifestyle influencer, a career that seemed to involve spending my money on clothes and taking pictures of lattes she didn't drink. "Sorry, Mom, traffic was a nightmare," she lied, kissing my cheek. She smelled of expensive white wine and ambition. Sebastian was already seated, his hands clean but rough, scarred from years of kitchen work. He gave me a small, tired smile. "It's okay, Mom, let's eat." "I have news," I said, wringing my napkin in my lap. "I've decided to step down. By my 60th birthday next month, I want to hand over the deed to the Gilded Crumb." The silence was instant. Julianna dropped her fork. Her eyes, usually scanning the room for a mirror, locked onto me with laser intensity. "You're giving us the bakery?" "I'm giving the bakery to the person who can lead it into the future," I said carefully. "Well, obviously that's me," Julianna laughed, flipping her hair. "I mean, look at me. I am the brand. I have the followers, I have the style. Sebastian belongs in the back, doesn't he?" "He's not exactly face of the company material." I looked at Sebastian. He didn't say a word. He just cut his chicken, his jaw tight. "Actually," I hesitated. This was the moment I should have defended him. I should have said that Sebastian knew the recipes by heart, that he managed the suppliers, that he was the soul of the place. But I looked at Julianna, so beautiful, so eager, so much like the daughter I wanted her to be. We will discuss the details later, but I am leaning towards a partnership, with Julianna handling the public side. Sebastian stopped eating. He placed his knife down with a soft clink. "A partnership? Mom, she doesn't know the difference between baking soda and baking powder." "Oh, shut up, you jealous troll," Julianna snapped. "Mom knows I have vision. You just want to keep the bakery in the dark ages." "Enough," I raised my voice. "This is not a debate, it is my decision." That night, I lay in bed, guilt gnawing at my stomach. I told myself I was doing the right thing. Julianna needed a purpose. Maybe if I gave her responsibility, she would rise to the occasion. How wrong I was. The weeks leading up to my birthday were chaotic. Julianna suddenly started showing up at the bakery, but she didn't come to work. She came to supervise. She would strut into the kitchen in high heels, criticizing the staff. "Why are these aprons so ugly? We need pink ones. And can we stop making the sourdough? It smells sour. We should do gluten-free cronuts." Old Mrs. Higgins, my head baker for 15 years, looked ready to commit murder with a rolling pin. Meanwhile, money started disappearing. First, it was small amounts from the petty cash. $50 here, $100 there. Then I noticed a discrepancy in the supply orders. We were paying for premium Belgian chocolate, but the delivery invoices showed generic cocoa. The difference, about $3,000, was missing. I sat in my office, the ledger open before me, my heart pounding. Someone knocked. It was Julianna. "Mom, are you okay? You look pale," she said, her voice dripping with faux concern. "There is money missing, Julianna, a lot of it." She gasped, her hand flying to her chest. "Oh no, Mom, I didn't want to say anything, but..." She lowered her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "I saw Sebastian taking cash from the register last week. I thought he was just borrowing it for gas, so I didn't want to tattle. But if thousands are missing?" My stomach dropped. "Sebastian? No, he's never stolen a penny." "Are you sure?" She walked around the desk and massacred my shoulders. Her nails dug in slightly. "He's been resentful lately, Mom. Ever since you said I would be the face of the company. Maybe he feels entitled, or maybe he has a gambling problem. He's always so secretive." Doubt, that insidious snake, slithered into my mind. Sebastian had been distant. He had been angry. I called Sebastian into the office 10 minutes later. Julianna stayed, leaning against the wall like a judge executioner. "Sebastian, did you take money from the accounts?" I asked, my voice trembling. He looked at me, his dark eyes wide with shock. Then he looked at Julianna, who was examining her manicure with a bored expression. The realization hit him, and his face closed off. A mask of stone descended. "If I say no, will you believe me?" he asked quietly. The evidence," I stammered. "Right," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. "You always believe the princess. Fine, think what you want, mother." He turned and walked out. He didn't defend himself. To me, that felt like an admission of guilt. To him, I realize now, it was an admission of defeat. He knew he couldn't win against the golden child. I fired him the next day. It was the hardest thing I had ever done. "Take some time off, Sebastian. We will sort this out later." He packed his knives in silence. The kitchen staff watched, some of them crying. Julianna stood by the door, smirking, typing on her phone. With Sebastian gone, the bakery began to fall apart. The bread was burnt, the orders were wrong. But Julianna assured me, "Don't worry, Mom, I hired a new manager, Dominic. He's a genius." Dominic? I met him 2 days later. He was Julianna's boyfriend, though she hadn't mentioned him before. He was slick, wearing a suit that was too shiny and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He called me Genevieve instead of Mrs. Vanderwall. "Don't worry, Genevieve," he said, looking around my bakery like a wolf surveying a sheep pen. "We're going to modernize this place, cut the fat." I felt a primal instinct of danger, but I was tired, so tired. My health was deteriorating rapidly. I was having dizzy spells. I spent more time in bed, leaving Julianna and Dominic in charge. The turning point came on a rainy Tuesday. I was at home, resting. I had forgotten my blood pressure medication at the office. I decided to drive over and pick it up, hoping the rain would clear my head. When I arrived at the Gilded Crumb, the lights were off in the front, but I saw a light in the back office. I unlocked the side door quietly. I don't know why I was quiet. Maybe it was the intuition of a woman who knows something is wrong in her own kingdom. As I approached the office door, I heard them. "This is taking too long, Jules." Dominic's voice was impatient. "The old hag is still clinging to the checkbook." "Don't worry, babe," Julianna's voice. "I swapped her heart pills for sugar pills 3 days ago. That's why she's so dizzy. Another week of high stress and she'll have a stroke. Then I get power of attorney by default." I froze. The world tilted on its axis. Sugar pills. My daughter wasn't just stealing from me, she was killing me. I pressed my hand over my mouth to stifle a scream. Tears streamed down my face, hot and fast. I wanted to burst in there and strangle her. I wanted to scream until my throat bled. But I stopped. If I confronted them now, they would deny it. They would say I was hallucinating. They would say I was senile. Exactly what they were planning to tell the lawyers. It was their word against mine, and I was the sick old woman. I needed proof. Irrefutable, damning proof. I backed away slowly, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I drove home in a daze. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, mourning the daughter I thought I had. That sweet girl with the golden curls was dead. In her place was a monster fueled by greed. The next morning, I acted. I called an old friend, Mr. Sterling. He was my lawyer, a man who had been handling my estate for decades. "Genevieve, you sound terrible," he said. I need to make changes to my will, Arthur, and I need a security team. Today, right now, in my house. I had hidden cameras installed in my home office and living room while Julianna was out shopping with my credit card. I placed one inside a hollowed-out antique clock on my desk, another in the bookshelf. Then I played the part. I stopped taking the pills she gave me. I hid them in a tissue and flushed them, taking my real medication, which I had hidden in a hollowed-out book in my library. But I pretended to be worse. "Oh, Julianna," I would moan, clutching my head. "I feel so confused today. I can't remember. Did I sign the payroll?" "No, Mom, you forgot," she would say, her eyes gleaming. "You're getting so forgetful. Maybe you should just sign that power of attorney now, so you don't have to worry." "Not yet, darling. Wait for the birthday party. I want to do it all then. A big celebration." "Fine," she snapped, impatient. That brings us to the cold open. It was 2 days before the party. I had gone out for a doctor's appointment, actually meeting with Sebastian, more on that in a moment, and came back to find the safe in my office open. I checked the footage. I watched Julianna and Dominic rifling through my papers. I heard them mocking me. I heard them confirming their plan to sell the bakery to a commercial chain that wanted to turn it into a frozen yogurt shop. They were going to raze my legacy to the ground for a quick payout. But the most painful part was when they talked about Sebastian. "I'm glad we framed him for the cash theft," Dominic laughed on the video. "He was the only real threat. He actually checks the books." "He's pathetic," Julianna sneered. "He loves Mom so much, he didn't even fight back because he didn't want to upset her. What a loser." I closed the laptop. My tears were dry. I felt a cold, hard rage settling in my chest. It was a powerful feeling. It replaced the fear. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in weeks. "Sebastian? Mom?" His voice was guarded, hurt. "Is everything okay?" "No, son, nothing is okay, but it's going to be. Can you meet me, alone?" We met at a small diner on the edge of town. When Sebastian walked in, he looked thinner. He looked tired. I stood up and hugged him. I held him tighter than I had in 20 years. "I'm so sorry," I whispered into his shoulder. "I'm so sorry." He stiffened, then slowly relaxed, hugging me back. "Mom, what's going on?" I told him everything. I showed him the video on my phone. I watched his face cycle through emotions: confusion, shock, horror, and finally, a deep, simmering anger. His hands clenched into fists on the table. "She swapped your pills?" he hissed, his voice lethal. "I'll make them pay dearly for this. I'll ensure they face absolute ruin." "No," I said, placing my hand over his. "That's too easy. We are going to do something much worse. We are going to let them think they've won. And then, in front of everyone they want to impress, we are going to destroy them." We spent the next 48 hours planning. I met with Arthur Sterling again. We drafted new documents. We prepared the presentation. The day of the party arrived. My 60th birthday, the grand retirement gala. I rented the ballroom at the Ritz. I spared no expense. Julianna was ecstatic. She spent